certain videos or something like that. Hello everybody. Welcome back to another weekly live stream here on Celtics Digest. We're your hosts, Bruce Veliz and Patrick Billings, and today we got a jam-packed episode really diving into the NBA draft for this Boston Celtics team, as we're going to look at some mock drafts that have been placed out there on the internet, looking at some guys that are potentially falling to the Celtics at their two picks at pick 28 and pick 32, as they're very valuable for the Celtics this season, Patrick. We're also going to dive in at the potential of the Celtics trading up, trading back, and some guys that we also think could be key pieces for the Celtics, even if they're not projected to go around where the Celtics are projected to land in the draft. We'll be diving into all of that and more. Patrick, how you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. You went on a little bit of a vacation and you come back to a great live stream to break down some good stuff with the Celtics team, and one of your areas of specialty too, the draft.
Yeah, man, I love the draft. We're less than a month away, which is crazy. I'm still not a fan of the 2-day draft since there's only 2 rounds. Still doesn't make any sense to me, but gives me more content to kind of watch. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to talk about the Celtics again. It's been about a week, so ready to talk some prospects. That's some of my favorite things to do. I love that.
Yeah, you're avoiding all the trade rumors with your little vacation. You and the trade rumors went flying around, and now you're coming back, and now we get to discuss some concrete stuff and some predictions as well when looking at some of these guys. So, Patrick, like we mentioned, we're going to be diving in. We're going to be looking at some mock drafts here, going with the Boston Celtics and looking at who they could potentially be picking with some of these guys going down the list here. So the first one we're going to be looking at is we're going to look at this one courtesy of NBA or ESPN, excuse me. This was on May 19th, so a little over 10 days ago, but let's dive in and let's look at this one here if I pull it up. Guys, let us know in the comments who you guys would like the Celtics to draft or some potential guys that really strike names for you. According to ESPN, these are them projecting all 59 picks for the draft. And we dive in, we scroll all the way to where the Celtics are predicting, Patrick, which is pretty far down, to be honest. All right, got to skip by all these teams here. We see at pick 28 here, they have on ESPN Noah Penda. Now, I don't know much on Noah Penda, but he played in France at Le Mans, small forward, power forward. But I have seen a lot of people on the internet kind of talking about Penda as a potential pretty good piece for the Boston Celtics if he were to able to go here. Now, Penda's strong fielder for the game and two-way impact after a productive and well-rounded season in France would make him an interesting sleeper target in this part of the draft. He offers excellent role player traits, a smart decision maker, and defensive playmaker if he can make enough shots to earn NBA minutes. It remains to be seen what his availability is for this Celtics team. Availability will be statewide with workouts, with the Pro A season still going on. What do you know about Noah Penda so much, and would you like this pick for the Celtics?
Yeah, I've seen a lot about Noah Penda kind of being all over the place a little bit. I've seen him kind of right outside of the lottery to the end of the first round. So when it gets to kind of these 20-ish round, like picks of the round, it's kind of just a mush, and it's really just where a guy's going to go. So there's a lot of opportunity for someone to fall for the Celtics. And I think that this is someone that the Celtics should probably look at. I just don't know the way that the Celtics are going to be looking at things, Bruce, if they're going to go a little bit young or if they're going to go a little bit older, just pending all these injuries that they got going on. We don't know if Jaylen Brown's going to get his surgery and what will that look like at the beginning of the season. But I do know a little bit about Noah Penda being a good defender, kind of be a long guy at 6'7". You know, these French guys are coming into the NBA playing very well, and I think that's somebody that you could kind of just take a chance on. But I think there's a couple of better options, like if you scroll down to your Suns there, like a Walter Clayton. That's somebody that I would probably be a little bit more interested in, just because if you think of the Celtics moving on from Jrue Holiday, right? Peyton Pritchard is going to be in that starting lineup. And what is something that a lot of people talked about Walter Clayton going into the draft? He could go into a veteran team, a win-now team, and actually perform and be a six-man player of the year type of player. So I think that's the type of player that the Celtics would look at, being one of the best shooters, if not the best shooter, in the draft. kind of coming into the Celtics, a veteran team, and just filling into a role to kind of go and get a championship. This is the type of guard that you want on your team.
Yeah, you mentioned before we get into Walter Clayton a little bit, I want to touch back to Noah Penda. You don't really know where the Celtics are really going with him. And for the Celtics, obviously, kind of needing that wing with Jayson Tatum being out is kind of key. So I could see them potentially leaning into the drafting of that, depending on how they feel in the development of Jordan Walsh and if they want to bring back Torrey Craig. But I would agree that Walter Clayton, I think, is maybe more a little bit of that profound fit for the Boston Celtics team and someone that's a little bit more eye-appealing with obviously the fact that he just led Florida to a national championship just past season and was that main shot creator, that main go-getter for the Florida Gators there when it came to it, when it mattered most. And like you mentioned, I think he could bring that kind of winning presence to a bunch of teams, especially the Celtics if they bring Peyton Pritchard up into that starting lineup. Personally, for me, I think the Celtics need to get a little bit of a defensive guy in there. So I think adding Walter Clayton still does help out that offensive punch that you do miss with Jrue. You still need someone to kind of play that defensive kind of scrappy role, maybe on like at the end of the bench, or just to kind of throw in there for a couple minutes. But Walter Clayton, I think, would be a great piece for the Celtics. But personally, I think I'd rather him go to the Suns because I think they need him a little bit more than the Celtics do.
That's fair then. But I know Penda, like there's a couple of things about his playmaking being a little bit of a strong shoot and his defense, but his shooting is kind of the weakness. And if you're the Celtics, you want to shoot a lot of threes. So that's why I think that Clayton would fit well with the Celtics of how good he is at shooting the three ball. So I think that's a big reason as well. And I do think his defense can go a little bit underrated because we saw him in a lot of the big games step up on the defensive end and still go out and score 30. So I wouldn't have too much of an issue of seeing the type of drive that he has on the defensive end. Kind of just go for some scrappy plays. And we saw at the end of the game of the national championship, he was on the floor. He was looking for the ball. He's getting the tip passes at half court. He's playing up. So he has no issue trying to, press the issue, go 94 feet. He has that type of mentality. So I think that can cover up for him a little bit of the defense, but he does have that fire and energy that you would want.
100%. And that's what you kind of mentioned, that fire and energy. I think that's most important for this Celtics team, and when they really identify for those type of guys, like you mentioned, he's going to be diving for those loose balls. He's going to be giving his body out on the floor, similar to a guy like Baylor Shireman, who we saw in the summer league, just throwing his body around. And I think very similar like that. He fits that instinct for the Boston Celtics and what they would feel comfortable in on drafting. And we have a comment as well from our guy over here, Ty Dollar 496, who also agrees with you, Patrick. He says he loves Walter Clayton and he likes Danny Wolf as well. And Ty Dollar, we're going to be getting into some Danny Wolf talk in just a little bit as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And Moonlight Supernova says draft depends on who gets moved on the current roster and for whom. And that's 100% correct, right? Obviously, it all depends on if Jrue Holiday is traded, if Kristaps Porziņģis is traded, if Sam Hauser is traded, if anybody's traded, what kind of value the Celtics get back and what kind of holes they are looking to fill. Because another big question as well with the Celtics team is the big free agents in Luke Kornet and Al Horford as well, Patrick.
Yeah, you know what? But I don't think any of those moves will happen before draft night.
Exactly.
If I want to be honest, I think they're kind of just being patient, kind of see how KP plays in this little Euro basket as well with Latvia. Mm-hmm. So I think that plays a huge part into his trade value, because if he's able to play at a high level over there, then that's a huge plus for the Celtics on both ends, whether you keep him or you get rid of him. I think that's a huge plus. But I really don't see the Celtics moving too much before the draft because I feel like they usually don't.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you. I feel like
they're going by what the past has told us.
And I think with them moving after the draft too, it puts them not in this calendar year, right? It puts them in next calendar year, which gives them a little bit more leeway in these contracts, makes it a little bit easier. Teams also have more cap space because some of those guys are in free agency, so they can take on more salary. So it would, I think, make things just a little bit easier for the Boston Celtics to identify that. And when we dive back into some draft talk, the next name we're going to be talking about is also at the center position. And a lot of these mocks, it might be just because there are a lot of centers that are around the late 20s, early 30s in this draft predictions. But the Celtics, who clearly have, a missing piece in that with the uncertainty of Kristaps Porziņģis, if Luke Kornet and Al Horford are going to be back this season, they are targeted to draft center. And one of the ones that we're going to be talking about next on this Sports Illustrated one is Maxime Reynaud. Now, I know a little bit about Maxime. He obviously had a great combine this year. He went to Stanford and is a 7-footer who can have some really great offense. It says here that the Celtics fell short in their title defense, and a major reason was due to their vulnerability at the center position. With Horford nearing retirement and Porzingis to stay struggling on the court, bolstering their front court should be a top priority, and that's where Stanford's Maxime Reynaud comes in. One of the biggest risers in the pre-draft process, Reynaud is a skilled 7-footer who can stretch the floor. He shot 34.7 from 3 and is dominant inside, averaging 20.2 points and 10.6 rebounds per game last season. He also brings promising rim protection potential, making him a natural fit in Boston's defensive schemes. It seems like to me, this guy really seems like he could fit this Boston Celtics team right now, checks all those boxes, and could be an absolute steal at this stage of the draft. Honestly, for me, I don't know if he's going to be there for the Boston Celtics because of his great combine skills and some of those stats. I did see some things that Stanford didn't play the best opponents, correct? He wasn't playing against some of the top-tier bigs, so those stats might be a little bit inflated, but I think he is a guy that would, once again, fit this scheme and could kind of replace those guys that we were just discussing, Patrick.
Yeah, he's a 4-year guy, a little bit older, so he definitely fits the criteria of kind of just being plugged in and ready to go. He actually moves pretty impressively if you watch some of his tape, just being from behind the arc, being able to be comfortable behind there and shoot the 3-ball pretty well. I mean, 34.7%. I mean, it's about average in the NBA, I would say, about now. Could be a little further back, but his field goal percentage being about 46%, a little bit higher than that. So that's a positive. But his length is something that the Celtics would like, and his shooting as well. And I think that's a huge positive. But like you said, I don't know how he's going to fall to the Celtics. There would have to be a couple things that could happen, but I mean, you never know. Draft night is always weird, man. The ACC, like we said, I want to actually go back to that. I kind of lost my spot, but the ACC was definitely not strong this year. Stanford plays in the ACC, which is still ridiculous, but ACC was just not as strong as it usually would be in the past years. So I guess the stats could be inflated at that point, but it's still a top tier conference in college basketball, regardless if it's in a high year or a low year.
No, 100%, and that was just something I had heard on another show, and just kind of in as an analyzation of his game, honestly. But I still think he could be a top tier, backup big. I think really kind of coming into the NBA, and who knows, could maybe transition into a top tier starter. Now, we do have a question in here from someone, and I talk away from draft topic for one quick second to ask this, because someone here, the Ordinary Guys podcast, asked if anybody knows if Steve Adams is available as a free agent, and I know that he is available as a free agent. Now, the Rockets really liked him. He brought a lot of great culture to them. But Moonlight Supernovas always wanted to see Adams in green. I know some other people would love the fierce, energy that Steven Adams brings. Do you think it would be possible if they were to get him? And if so, would you like to see Steven Adams?
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't like Steven?
That's true. That's true.
He came off for the Rockets, kind of played in some big spots there with Şengün, like kind of coming off the bench and making that switch, a big body down low. He's always been a pretty good rebounder. I mean, I think he would fit pretty well with them. I think personally, since we did talk about it live stream last week, I think I'd probably rather Daniel Gafford over Steven Adams, to be honest. The more that I've thought about it over the time, I think that I'd rather a player like that. But I think Steven Adams is another great option as well.
Yeah, I think Steven Adams, like you just mentioned, if you can try to get a center for Jrue Holiday or Kristaps Porziņģis, you kind of want to invest in that a little bit more. But if you can't find a good quality center, or if you can only bring back one of Luke or Al Horford, maybe you do look at the potential of bringing in a Steven Adams alongside one of them to kind of really help out fill that role. And he could come in on a 1, 2, 2-year deal to where it's not like he's going to be here for a long time and really taking up that much space for Celtics potential centers to grow in this rotation.
Yeah, I think he also brings a different type of center that the Celtics haven't really had in a while. So that's why I kind of liked Daniel Gafford as well, just because of how athletic he is. And I think that the Celtics would prefer the lob threat a little bit more that Daniel Gafford has. But again, I think Steven Adams is a great option as well. I think that's something that they could definitely fall back on and kind of look at, especially if the Rockets are going to be interested in Jrue Holiday. That could be a little plug-in piece as well. Maybe pull off a little Cam Whitmore in there just for myself, because I would like that. But I mean, they have a couple pieces that they're going to have to move off of. So I think that could be definitely a trade destination.
Oh, Patrick, you're not alone in wanting Cam Whitmore on this Celtics team. Trust me, I saw him play against Seton Hall with my own eyes, and I would love to see him in that green. Now, he has that untapped potential to really break out, and I think on a Celtics team this season, specifically with no Jayson Tatum, it would give him that opportunity to really be able to develop and reach that full potential, something he hasn't been able to do in that log-jammed room of wings that he's been kind of stuck in. And Houston and I, going off topic here just for 1 second, I think he will get traded from Houston this season, and I think he will have that opportunity somewhere else. So I am very happy for him, and I know you will be too when he gets that to be able to display that game.
Yeah, I like I said, I mean, the more I think about it, the more I'd be interested in it, to be honest. But, I mean, the Rockets have a lot of money and a lot of guys that are kind of going to get on some expiring contracts. You know, Jalen Green's got some option down there to get traded as well. So they got some things to do over there. I think that would be pretty interesting. And who wouldn't want Jrue Holiday?
Yeah, I mean, that is the key thing. I feel like everyone is interested in Jrue Holiday, which is why there's so many ridiculous proposals of trades and all this jazz up here as well coming in. But Patrick, let's dive back into the draft talk, and someone that I like personally a lot and I think could be a big help for this Celtics team. And our boy Ty Dolla was talking about him earlier. It's Danny Wolf, and Danny Wolf is projected to go to the Celtics here at this pick in the Bleacher Report mock draft. Now, 6'11 stats, 252 pounds, 21 years old, so is coming in a little bit older. They give him the pro comparison of Kelly Olynyk, which I think is pretty solid. Maybe a little bit better of a passer or ball handler for Danny Wolf, but definitely a pretty solid comparison. Wolf made a strong final pitch to scouts against Auburn, finishing with 20 and a number of eye-opening highlights that showcase his creation and shot making. Though his three-point numbers might not indicate shooting improvement, he had a pull-up and step back to his repertoire this year, and a 7-footer who made 21 dribble jumpers served as Michigan's leading playmaker and still averaged 9.7 boards and 1.4 blocks, inbound to entice a number of teams. I really like him. I think kind of with some of our other discussions with these guys, we don't know if he's going to be available for the Celtics at pick 28, but if he was, I think he would be an absolute home run swing for the Celtics to really replicate that scoring big that Porziņģis and Horford do bring to this squad.
Yeah, I definitely think that if he falls to 28, that is a match made in heaven for the Celtics because they don't have to move up for him, and they kind of save some picks and all that other stuff as well. But that also helps salary rise just if he falls too, so that's definitely something that they need. The one thing about Danny Wolf that's really cool is that he was able to play with Vlad Golden, kind of just playing 2 7-footers in the pick and roll and do it dominantly. And he still was able to average almost 10 rebounds a game. An insane passer, actually has some great ball handling as well. A lot of confidence in him, and I think he does fit a lot of bit of the Celtics mold. I think coming out maybe a little bit better than Kelly Olynyk just because of how good a facilitator he really is. But I think that let's just kind of say that if the Celtics still start the season with Kristaps Porziņģis, that pick and roll could be pretty damn nasty.
Oh, I completely agree, and that's something I didn't even really think about. But if the Celtics were to keep a guy like Kristaps Porziņģis, as I know that's something that's not completely out of the ballpark at this moment. We don't know what Brad Stevens is ultimately going to do. We're going to have to find out when it drops from Shams or drops from someone else. But that would be really interesting to see a Porziņģis and Danny Wolf kind of front court here for the Boston Celtics, kind of utilizing that double big, because you mentioned he has that great passing ability as well. He can work in the pick and roll. I think that one thing that people mentioned was his turnovers was a little bit bad, and on How About Them Celtics, shout out to Jack and Sam. They did a fantastic job covering Danny Wolf today, so if you want a more in-depth version, go check out their video. But Danny Wolf had some turnover issues, I believe they were talking about, but with him maybe not being a primary ball handler for a Celtics team, that's going to be limited as well. I know Sam mentioned that, his free throw shooting isn't the greatest as well, and that kind of determines how great of a shooting he might be in the NBA, but solid rebounder, shot protector, a guy that could have, in a Celtics team, could ultimately develop a jump shot, and if he does, would be pure with the three-point shooting. I think is a perfect fit if he lands there.
Yeah, and I think he kind of would play a little bit slower as well. I feel like he's a little bit of a slower pace guy as well. But the Celtics do like to grab the rebounds and get out quick. They don't really, we see Luke Cornett never get defensive rebounds. Well, because he'd probably rather Tatum grab the rebound and take the ball right up instead of kind of getting it to your guard. So I think just having someone that could actually just get the ball and just be confident in the ball handling and as a facilitator to set up your offense, I think that's a huge plus. So I think something like that will go into that. And I mean, you're surrounded by some great guys, so a lot of those shooting problems will definitely get fixed within those first 2 years.
Oh, 100%. And that's, I think, one of the key things to really evaluate with a player like him is he'll be able to do that with this Celtics team in a offense, too, with Joe Mazzulla, where he really, really prefaces that is a big thing for him, is understanding to shoot the ball and be a solid three-point shooter. And then, Patrick, we got one more mock draft to really look at. This one is from Yahoo Sports, courtesy of Kevin O'Connor. And this pick, I think, out of all of the picks, personally, I think is the one that is a little bit of the biggest reach for the Boston Celtics if they were able to secure him. But it's going to be a player in 3 seconds when I get to him. And here he is. Thomas Sorber. Now, Thomas Sorber went to Georgetown. He did have a foot injury through the season, I do believe, so he did not really get to compete, or for a lot part, but 6'10", 255, a freshman at only 19 years old at age. This is someone that you can draft as the Boston Celtics, where you haven't really drafted a center that you can really develop at a ripe young age. So I think this is great for them. His team fit, they say Horford turns 39, Porziņģis can't stay on the floor. The Celtics need to start thinking about their future. He could definitely be a steal at this part of the draft. That's why I think so too. He's unlikely to participate on on-court workouts due to his foot injury that ended his freshman year of Georgetown just after 24 games, but he still projects as a first-round pick due to his brick house frame and the throwback skill set to match. He sets strong screens, scores with a soft touch finish, and has gritty drop coverage instincts. They give his comparisons as Valanciunas and Yusuf Nurkic as a paint protector and post presence, and I could value that as the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a pretty damn good defender, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that his offensive game could definitely still grow. I mean, he's 19 years old. Of course it could still grow, but I definitely think it does need to grow, and that's why there could probably be some concerns about him falling a little bit to the Celtics, and maybe that would be why. But I think, again, if he gets a couple more post moves and works through the Celtics G League that has seemed to do great things with a lot of other guys like Luke Cornett, I think would benefit him well. And, I mean, if they feel like he's ready enough to play up, then I'm sure he will just because of his defense. But, I mean, he's a damn good player.
Oh, 100%. And in this mock draft as well, they have LeBaron Philon. I don't if that might
LeBaron Philon.
LeBaron Philon, sorry, I mispronounced that. But guard from Alabama. What do you know a lot about him? Because I wanted to kind of look at this pick as well because it was close to their second round pick.
Yeah, I mean, he's also another good scorer. I don't really know where his range is looking at right now. There's been a lot of positive things about him as well going into the draft, but I don't know if he's necessarily going to stay in or not. I don't know what his deal is, but this is like the weird part about the draft now, like with a guy like him, because I did see him kind of going a little bit like mid to 20s, early 20s, and now he's kind of falling off a little bit. I missed the combine because of work, so this is why I'm struggling, and it pisses me off. But yeah, there's not too much about LeBaron Philon that I know for a positive off the top of my head, just because it's been a while. But I mean, he's another great player that a lot of GMs and NBA scouts have talked very well about him. And I mean, again, if he falls to the Celtics, I mean, another guard is definitely a lot of help.
Awesome. That I mean, like you mentioned, they kind of do need that help, and if they could get that help at a cheap contract alongside to help with Peyton Pritchard, who is also on a great contract, I think that can kind of supplement at least what they want for Jrue Holiday's replacement, I guess, for the Boston Celtics.
He was still a freshman, so that's why I'm kind of like, if he's stay in or not. And as a freshman, especially going to Alabama with the NIL that you could talk about, why would you kind of go back? He averaged 10.6 points per game, 3.3 rebounds, and 3.8 assists, 45% from the field, 31.5% from the three. So it's kind of just one of those guys that is a young guy, definitely has the skill set to play into the NBA. But I mean, if you're a projected second rounder as a freshman, and why would you come out?
No, I understand that.
With Todd Pettiford today.
Yep,
I mean,
we saw. Yep.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I am pretty shocked too. And then Thomas Sorber, going back to it, I don't know if he's going to make it to 28. I'd love to see him fall at 28 because I think he can help out. But once again, the Celtics projected to really kind of get some bigs, maybe a guard to really fill in that Jrue Holiday role late for the mock drafts here. But Patrick, we see some people talking about some people in the chat that they kind of like, and I want to kind of get your opinion on some guys too. So we're going to dive into that and kind of get into that as well. We see some people talking about Phylon, but I see Lloyd bringing up Yaxo Lendenborg. He said he's going to be good. Unfortunately, Lloyd, we did find out that Yaxo will be going back to college. He got a offer from Michigan, and that deal was, I think, like roughly around $4 million NIL.
He was 60% on his decision on going back or not. It was really just if he was going to be a mid-first rounder, and that doesn't seem like the case. So he's like, why not go to Michigan? Play for a great coach, play for a great team, and, we'll get him next year. I mean, it would have been nice for him to stay in so it could actually fall to us, but it's not going to happen next year, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, unfortunately for the Celtics, I think he's going to be a little bit higher than where he was projected to go this year, but great for Yaxo Lendenborg. He played really good at UAB, and I saw some of his highlights. He was one of the guys that I was told about for the Suns as well, so I did a little bit of research, and I liked him kind of for both fits for the team, so I really liked him. And then Lloyd also brought up Ryan Kalkbrenner. Now, Kalkbrenner was in this mock draft, and he's someone that I personally really like, as you guys can see in the thumbnail, for multiple reasons. One, both Patrick and I love these Big East guys because Patrick's a Nova fan, and I went to Seton Hall, but not only just that, but I got to see them play, right? I got to see Baylor Scheierman play in real life. I got to see Ryan Kalkbrenner play in real life multiple times, and they're both ridiculous. Not only to the fact that Kalkbrenner can bring that paint-protecting beast at 7 foot, something that if they get rid of Kristaps Porziņģis or if they lose Luke Kornet, they at least have another 7-footer to really back them up. But he can defend the paint pretty well. I think be a solid piece alongside in the pick and roll with the Boston Celtics. And not to mention, Baylor Scheierman was drafted from Creighton last season. You add Ryan Kalkbrenner, someone who he has a connection with on the court and off the court, playing with over in college. That's just going to make them gel, and ultimately, I think, even help them specifically kind of improve on that secondary unit. We saw that Scheierman is expected to get more minutes this year, kind of get a bigger leash, and maybe drafting Kalkbrenner can really empower that and empower both of them, I think, to their best ability.
Yeah, their pick and roll was disgusting when they were both at Creighton. He actually started getting a little bit more of a three-point shot, which actually played into his favor, kind of just being a little bit more of a stretch, so that definitely helps his stock as well. And, I mean, he's a little bit of a slower big, but he is a ginormous body. His paint defense is very good. He plays it at a very high level. And I think that he's just a reliable big at that point. There's not you look at a guy like Zach Edey, that's kind of where I'm getting the vibes from. Kind of like the same-ish type of player, a little bit of a smaller frame because he's not 300 pounds. But, I mean, again, just a great defender, a big body. He could stretch the floor pretty well. He could run the pick and roll very well. And, again, the connection with Baylor Scheierman's awesome.
Yeah, I think the connection with Baylor Scheierman, I feel like, is just like the cherry on top added on to all of it. I think the main concern you mentioned as well with Kalkbrenner, as a lot of people are concerned with, is his game going to be able to transition because he is so slow, right? Like, would he be able to kind of be able to reach the ability to his best? And I think the comparison of him and Zach Edey is very, very on par. So, there's, the comparisons of seeing him in the NBA and already kind of seeing that. So, will Kalkbrenner be able to translate into a player like that or even, overcome the obstacles that are at the ability with him, not having the best lateral quickness, being a little bit slower on that end. But I think his rim protection and size would definitely benefit the Boston Celtics. And as we saw with Luke Kornet, I mean, he's not the fastest, most quickest big of all time, and he can succeed in our lineup. So I feel like Kalkbrenner could easily fit in like a shoe. Fit in like a shoe. I don't know the analogy. Fit like a glove. There you go.
Yeah, and I think that there could definitely be a little bit more of a comparison with Luke Kornet as well. But they'll probably just stray him away from the 3-point line. Honestly, they did with kind of just keep him down low, and I think that's something that they would do with him. And I don't mind the fit. I definitely don't mind the fit at all.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind. I know Matthew Souza just came in here and says, I don't think the center from the English. I don't like the center from Creighton at all in the NBA. I would be pissed if the Celtics picked him. He's a good college player, but nothing more in my opinion. And Clifford will not be available. And that's talking about the next guy that I wanted to talk about, which is Nick Clifford, which if we can find him here.
Just real quick, I think that I always had that kind of standpoint that there would be guys that really in the NBA, in college for a long time, and their game just won't translate. But in the NBA, the past couple of years, it really hasn't been that way. It's really been the older guys that have been stepping up and playing a lot better. Like we saw, Jaime Jaquez was one of those guys as well that I really didn't think that his game would be translating into the NBA well, and he had an incredible rookie season. And a lot of teams, especially winning teams like the Celtics, want the older guys so they could just kind of fit in and just play right away. They already have that veteran type of mindset. They were at college for 4 to 5 years, and I think that's something that they need, and I think that's something that a lot of teams are starting to figure out and have more value in. So I think that's why he will still be great, because I think Zach Edey actually played very great for his first year as well.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was the biggest Zach Edey hater in college. I did not think his game was going to be able to translate into the NBA, and he proved me wrong multiple times. Not just last year in March Madness or when they made it to the finals versus UConn, but also in the NBA this rookie season. So I clearly think that Kalkbrenner can translate and have that ability as well. Matthew also mentioned that he's more interested in guys in Reynaud, which we talked about earlier. Guard like Cam Jones, who we did not mention, and then LeBaron Space Phylon, who we did mention as well. So, Matthew, if you want to rewind a little bit, you can see our talks about that as well. Shireman's incredible. Love Jaime. But talking about Neek, for Wolf, I definitely move up. I would too. But for talking about Neek Clifford, this has been the guy that I really liked at March Madness. We talked about him as one of the guys that was kind of projected really early on when the tournament had just started. When we made our first video talking about the draft, this was one of the guys that's projected to go around the Celtics. Now, he's moved up, but I think he's kind of the perfect Swiss Army knife type of wing for the Boston Celtics. I think his shot could be really solid as well for the Celtics team if he is able to develop it. And like we mentioned as well, 23 years old of age, coming in as a senior, he can make an impact right away for the Boston Celtics at a position of need at the wing. And his comparisons, Chris Middleton, Josh Hart, Desmond Bane, I feel like he's more a Chris Middleton and Josh Hart type guy than a Desmond Bane. But I think a combination of these two guys would be absolutely perfect for him as a player in the NBA.
Yeah, he could definitely stretch the floor on offense, and he could do the same on the defensive end. A pretty athletic guy, definitely a longer type of guardish forward, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd kind of be like a little bit of a small forward at the NBA standard at this point. I don't really get the Desmond Bane one because Desmond Bane has some really short arms, I guess, when it comes to shooting and maybe facilitating wise. But I think he's more plays as a power forwardish type of guy. Which is what he kind of played at Colorado State. But we talked about him early on. I mean, my prediction definitely didn't go well, but things always change with Janai Broom. I mean, he can't jump, so that was obviously a big factor in knowing that at the Combine. But, yeah, I mean, Neek Clifford is someone that we definitely talked about, and he's an awesome player. And if he falls to us, man, you feel right in.
I think he would be absolutely amazing. And then, Patrick, I know you have one more guy that you wanted to talk about as well. I believe I saw him on this list, so I'm going to see if I can get him pulled up. There's Maxime right there. He's going in this draft ahead. There's Yaxel, who we just mentioned. Rasheer Fleming, I know he's someone as well that was mentioned around the Celtics from St. John's. Danny Wolf, Walter Clayton we talked about, Sorber, Ben Serif I know has been mentioned. Pettiford's not coming back. Kalkbrenner. Where is our boy?
It might be earlier. Kobe Bryant, actually, if you want to talk about him real quick.
Okay.
Talk about a shooter, and I think a lot of people are kind of just doubting his ball handling. But when I said that Walter Clayton might be the best shooter in the draft, he is the reason why I said might be up there as well. And I mean, he's kind of in that early second round range, and they just compared him to Sam Hauser. I mean, he's a little bit better of a ball handler than Sam Hauser, but, I mean, Kobe Bryant is a dog, and he is literally one of the best shooters in this draft, and I think that would be another steal for them as well. I think that'd be an awesome fit.
I really like that fit, too. I saw him, obviously, we were talking before. I am a Kentucky fan, so I watched the games, and he was one of the main reasons they were very successful in this tournament as well, hitting those big-time shots. So I think he would be a perfect fit for the Celtics team, similar to like a Walter Clayton type of shot creator scorer that could really take that big step for the Celtics.
Okay, you keep scrolling, and now there's so many names that are coming out of nowhere. I mean, everyone's mock draft is different.
Yeah, I know. It's so crazy.
Liam McNeely going 14. I do not see that happening. A lot of the mocks that I'm seeing, I see him kind of going late round. So if the Celtics could somehow get to the 28 pick and Liam McNeely is sitting there, talk about a fit for the Celtics. I mean, he just brings in that UConn energy. He's a great shooter.
Mm-hmm.
But he could still fit in right away, kind of like Baylor Shireman's role I would see in the first year, but actually younger and plays just as well. I mean, he is an animal. If the Celtics get to – you see him sitting here at 27. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
This is
I would
very
love
independent.
that. I would love that for the Celtics. Obviously, Clayton is here too. I don't understand how Carter Bryant is here mocked at 29 in this mock draft, but if that was somewhere to happen for the Suns, then I would be going ballistic. But to scroll all the way up a little bit, this one has your boy right here. How do you pronounce this again?
Berenger.
Berger.
He's French, so I mean it depends. It's Joan Berenger.
Joan Berenger. There we go. So
He
what do you know about Joan Berenger to tell the fans?
so this guy, I mean, it makes you want to hate that you played basketball your whole life and didn't make it to the NBA because apparently he started playing basketball 4 years ago. He apparently started getting too big for soccer and thought that picking up basketball would be the right idea, and clearly it is if he is in this NBA draft about to be a first rounder. This guy is a great defender. Watching some of his tape, he has some great. Yeah, see, there we go. We're thinking the same exact thing. I mean, he's got some great lateral movement for someone at his size. I mean, I guess playing soccer plays a huge role into being a defender and guarding a lot of different guys. And there's a lot of impressive things that you see, especially on the defensive end. He's long. He's about 6'10", 6'11", with a 7'5" wingspan. I think the offense will definitely come as you're new to the game. He's just a down low presence as of right now. But I think that he could really evolve into the Celtics G League, and he is a little bit younger, so clearly he could kind of go through that G League, and that wouldn't be too much of an issue. But I think that this is a guy that the Celtics could look at, especially being a long lob threat down low.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm going to have to do some more research into him,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
6'10", 230, I mean,
Yeah.
that intrigues me a lot, especially
Yeah.
the with the rise of France as well, not only just in the Olympics, but just like in basketball in general, how well they have been kind of developing some of their players. Celtics, with some of these mocks, like we mentioned, have been going everywhere. Maluak is 18 in this one, but you know what I mean? Everyone's going up and down, but Penda, Berenger, two French guys who have been, mocked to the Celtics in when looking at these players. So maybe they go a little bit like that, tap back into their Gershon Yabusele past, dive in, draft a French big, and see maybe it works out this time and kind of go down that road. Or maybe they do go the college route. There's going to be a lot of questions, I think, revolving around what they really do, but it's going to be interesting, I think, for the Celtics, because I think kind of last season, the offseason was, all right, we're going to keep everybody, and then that's basically it. There wasn't really much discussion. This offseason is going to be a lot different because there's going to be moving pieces, and we're going to have to bring players in that might have to play now to fill in roles. It's going to be a very fun offseason.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and especially when we look at two players that we talked about. You got one in Berenger, who obviously had some troubles kind of on the defense because he's still learning the game at the same time. So it definitely takes some time to learn the game, and that's why I think that he could be a great fit in the G League and kind of just actually learn the game from some great staff that the Celtics have that have definitely, grown a lot of these players that the Celtics have, multiple of them going through the G League and coming up and making a big impact. So it'd be huge for him. And then you look at the other side of it, it's like, well, do we take a guy like Walter Clayton and just stick him right in and be our sixth man? So it really just depends on what the Celtics are thinking. Like, we got a full month ahead of us. So there could be so many different changes. Maybe they actually do make a trade. But, I mean, I really doubt it without the Celtics doing. I think they kind of think ahead with this draft or just trying to just take what's best available.
Yeah, and speaking of trades, my boy's asking if they could trade for up from Maluak. I don't know if the Celtics are gonna be able
So
to do that.
I don't necessarily count it out. I mean, but it'd
Mhm.
have to be one of a Jrue Holiday or a KP because I don't think Malawach is gonna fall past top 10.
Yeah,
Like
I don't.
I mean, this has him at 18, but I'd be very surprised if he falls out of the top 10. Maybe 12 would be the furthest that he will go.
Mhm.
But I mean, in that little like 7 to 12 range, definitely.
Yeah, I have him. I've been doing some off-season recaps on some teams on my personal channel, and I think team that it's going to be hard for him to get past 9. I think.
Yeah, Brooklyn, I don't
Bro-
think is
I,
they're
I
gonna have a hard time passing him.
I think Brooklyn's the hardest one to pass on him. I think you could say Washington could take him for Sarr if they want that true center. You could argue, I guess, New Orleans could take him if they want him to try over Messi, or if they feel questionable with Zion. And then I feel like Brooklyn, because they're most likely going to trade Claxton, is like the
Yeah.
main way he's going to go. And then maybe
Rap-
if the Raptors want to trade Podol for a Giannis trade, maybe he's the way that they go or something like that. But I don't necessarily know.
I think he matches exactly the type of player that the Raptors want on their roster. Just
Yeah.
because of how big he is and like his wingspan and all that type of stuff. So he definitely fits their roster. But I mean, you got guys like Con Knipple in there as well, who's going to be a little bit of a movement guy.
And
But
even if he got past, I think Chicago would.
yeah, he would definitely be very hard to trade up for. But it would have to be someone willing for, a Kristaps Porziņģis or a Jrue Holiday. Maybe if the Jazz want to make a trade, but they're a little bit early in the draft, so it might be tough with the teams that are kind of available to where he's at.
Sounds good. And then Lloyd saying if we watch Joan Beranjay's highlight film, he's falling all over the place. So that's definitely something that we can do as well, Patrick, with some videos and stuff like that. If you guys are interested in some draft content, want to see more kind of, I guess not like deep dives, but looking at players, kind of talking about where they fit, if they're going to be good players for this team, we can definitely get some videos out, especially with there being a month over into the season, can definitely dive into that. Ashton had a question on a player that I have kept my eyes on for a long time, as he was supposed to go in the draft a couple seasons ago, went back to Duke, has changed his role multiple times. Tyrese Proctor. He's really kind of, I view him as a better offensive Tyus Jones kind of in the NBA. Has a little bit of a better shot, a little bit bigger in size as well. And I think he could kind of bring that for the Boston Celtics if they do want to go point guard. Personally, I think he'd be a better fit for the Suns because they do need it, similar to Walter Clayton. But what do you think about Tyrese Proctor?
Never was really a fan of Tyrese, honestly.
Okay.
He just never has wowed me.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I've been more wowed with Cam Jones than I have with Tyrese.
Okay.
To be honest, I mean, obviously I get to watch Cam Jones a little bit more, but he's a killer. Maybe just not as a playmaker, not being that good, but as an offensive demon. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what he is, and I think that he could definitely be a good fit with the Celtics. But Proctor doesn't really wow me.
Okay, sounds good. I got to maybe do some more research into him as well. Like I said, I want to kind of get more into the draft. I know that you're a little bit more of an expert in it, but I definitely want to kind of get into the figuring out of the Celtics and kind of what they do with that. Lastly, before we go, Patrick, kind of talked about the trade with Malawak, but do you could see the Celtics potentially taking their 2 picks, 28 and 32, and packaging them to go move up in the draft? Or do you think the Celtics will hold 28 and 32 because they're going to need the roster spots to really fill out this team?
That is tough because I think with those 2 picks, really you can't move up too far.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to where you kind of get into the 22 range, maybe even 4 at the max. So you really have to like a player that's sitting there that they're like, how is this guy still sitting at 22, 24? And they'd really have to like him. But as we've seen in the past, how many times has Brad Stevens trade up, and how many times has he traded back and into other drafts? So if I'm just going off of what I've seen so many times of staying up, waiting to see the Celtics pick, and they don't, I think it's more likely that they move back than they move up.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't really see them consolidating these picks. I think they're going to really have to strike with the irons hot, with needing some fresh roster spots, with potentially losing some guys, and trying to figure out this depth without Jayson Tatum this season. So keeping those 2 picks, I think, is going to be very, very great. But Patrick, once again, we had a great stream here for everyone today, breaking down the Celtics, looking at the draft, looking at mock drafts, looking at some pieces that the Celtics could potentially land. Once again, we'll have some videos coming out going over all of that. But we appreciate everyone that was in the stream today. Patrick, we almost had around 40 people in the stream, which is very wild today. You know what I mean? Off season's kicking in to swing. Everyone's kind of wanting to get some more Celtics news, so they're coming out here and showing support. So thank you to everyone that was in the chat, from Patrick Barron, Matthew Souza, Lloyd, Ashton, Aisha Daniels, Dave's Not Here Man, Ty Dalla, and Moonlight Supernova. But everyone that was in the chat, thank you guys so much for hanging out. We really do appreciate you guys hanging out with us on these Wednesdays, breaking down this Celtics team. And we hope to catch you next Wednesday as well, when we look at some more news revolving around this squad. Hopefully there'll be some announcements on, some trade front, or some potential free agency stuff with the Celtics, so we can definitely break down some stuff. But if not, we'll definitely be talking about whatever is involving around the Boston Celtics. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really do appreciate your support. Dave is saying it's wild, as he knows. Without further ado, we'll catch you guys later. Have a great rest of your night, and go Boston Celtics. Peace out, everyone.